What's up, fight fans? This is Kirk DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news, some more news concerning Dillian, the body snatcher Whyte. Dillian Whyte concerned that Dubois will kill Derek Chisora, says Whyte. And he says that Derek Chisora's next because he has bigger fights available. Whyte claims that Dubois will unalive Derek Chisora if the fight happens, which fans on social media agree, okay? And he says, no, he ain't going on fight Derek Chisora. No, said Dillian Whyte to Seconds Out when asked about his thoughts on a possible fight between Derek Chisora and the IBF champion, Daniel Dubois. He said Dubois ain't going to fight. No. Dubois will kill Derek. He might actually die. Seriously, there are bigger and better fights for Dubois to take right now. It's just business. Derek Chisora is at the bottom of the list. There are bigger and better guys at the top of the list. Yes, said Whyte when they told that he's at the top of the list for a Dubois fight. He said, I'm open by the end of June. I had a conversation with Frank, and he said there's availability to the end of June. I kept my training up. I'm still in good shape. I never ran so much in my life before, said Whyte. And let me counterpunch. Sounds like to me, besides the concern for Derek Chisora from Dillian Whyte, it seems like he has vested interest. Seems like he has vested interest in, getting the fight himself. So, him saying that, hey, he will kill Derek Chisora. No, he's not fighting Derek Chisora. I'm on the top of the list. Derek's on the bottom of the list. What does that tell you? That tells you that, no, it's not even a hope and wish for his better safety. It's more like a claim that he wants to fight before Derek Chisora does. And I'll say this, to me, it's about time that Dillian Whyte does get another shot because he hasn't been in a big fight since when? If you count the Jermaine Franklin fight, which everybody and their mom gave him hell about, including me, for taking a fight like that, because he could have easily fought Martin McCauley, all that, backstage in that stadium or whatever, and he wanted him to come outside. That's the person he should have fought. Instead of Teta and Hammer and all these guys, and I know he had the AJ fight, which, had some weird stuff with the, drug test. So go figure. So, but other than that, those are two fights that I don't even think that could have happened. So it's about damn time if Dillian Whyte could get that type of fight from Danny Dubois. That's a fight that I would really be interested in seeing just based on the styles, because one thing about Dillian Whyte likes to scrap. He's a banger. And so is Daniel Dubois. So it's like the old banger versus the new banger, you know what I mean? The new kid on the block versus, the old landlord, right? And so to speak. But I think, though, Daniel fighting Dillian Whyte would be interesting, because I think Dillian Whyte is a guy that can still punch to a certain degree, even though, the Teta fight was kind of alarming because he was throwing a lot of shots at Teta and landing on Teta, and Teta wasn't going anywhere, even though he quit in the corner. I think it was round 6 or 7. Dillian Whyte, I see an older Dillian Whyte getting that guy out of there much sooner, and it didn't make any better that Frazier Clark dispatched of Teta in 1 round. So that should tell you a lot about, it doesn't look good for Dillian Whyte, but I still want to see Dillian Whyte fight, okay? So, but I don't think it's because he's worried about Derek Chisora and his well-being. I just think that he feels, because if he feels that he's on the bottom of the list, the fight ain't happening anyway, right? So that's just, how the IBF is just kind of concocting and shuffling around guys based on, based on the things that happen in boxing with McCauley and Parker and Dubois getting sick and stuff like that. So, I think Dillian Whyte fighting Daniel Dubois, I don't think that fight will happen. That's the strange thing. I don't think that fight will happen. He's just saying, well, I just think I'm more on top of the list than Derek Chisora. Fair enough, but I don't think he's going to fight any of you guys. And Dillian Whyte could be left with whoever. I mean, I don't even really know who Dillian Whyte could fight, at this point, because how about Jared Anderson? I think that would be a good fight at this point for Dillian. Because Dillian can still prove that, hey, I can do what McCauley can do, but better. You know what I mean? So that still puts him in an argument of being a legitimate heavyweight. Because, again, we haven't seen him in a serious test in a long time. And that's alarming to me, to see Dillian Whyte take on the kind of fights that he was fighting versus how he used to take on anybody can get it. He was the can man, So you guys tell me what you think of Daniel Dubois' concern for Derek Chisora, stating that Chisora is at the bottom of the list for fighting Dubois, and he is at the top. Of course, please subscribe, and you guys been Counterpunch.